What's up guys, Qehzy here bringing you guys another tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create this clean abstract header in Photoshop. I've been meaning to do this tutorial for a while now and I'm finally covering it. This has been a popular style recently of headers, using gradients and just creating shapes and reversing the gradients and stuff. So I'm finally covering it. I have another version of this that I'll be doing later on this summer. But it's a pretty simple concept, and with practice you guys can get really good at this sort of style. Before we get started, I just want to let you guys know to check out my social media, follow me on Twitter, subscribe to this YouTube channel you're on now. Check out my Instagram, that's Qehzy. I'm posting soccer kits and football kits, depending where you're from. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon page. I have a lot of great deals there. Like for $5 a month, you can get everything in my store, everything I make. I'll post the files and stuff. You get files from the video, you get videos early, all that good stuff. My channel isn't monetized, so that's one of the only ways I can keep doing this, along with my store, which I'll have linked down below for you guys to check out. But any support on that, I'll appreciate very much. But also check out my social media, give me a follow. I appreciate any of the support. And if you ask for a follow back, I'll follow you back. But let's just jump into the tutorial. So I have my Twitter template over here, or open here. And the first thing you want to do is get your color scheme ready. So I went with this sort of greenish blue color. And you just want to pick a brighter version of whatever color you want. It could be any color you want, it doesn't matter. I would not recommend going fully saturated, but just like somewhere in like around the top right will work. So I'm going with this green, and then the first thing you want to do is go to the bottom and create a solid color. And now you'll have this, you'll have your color as the color that pops up, and what you want to do is just take that dot and bring it down towards the bottom right so you have a very dark color. Now I already have mine saved here, so I'm going to go with that one, and that's going to be our background color. And once you do that, we just jump right into creating the banner. There's not much setup. All you do is create a new layer, and then we're going to get the pen tool and we're going to start creating our shapes. So I basically go with two main shapes that I pen tool for this particular style. The next tutorial I'll be doing a little more, but this one I'm going to start from the top left and kind of create a wave shape like so and go out the bottom right. That's pretty okay. How similar is that to that? It's fairly. I want to put a little more bend on it though. Maybe do like that and come out. Yeah, I like that. So something like that, and I'm gonna close that off. And once you close it off, you can hit Command T and change it and rotate it or do whatever. And then also, if you hold Command and click a point, you can move that point around. If you want to make any adjustments. In this case, I like that shape, that's pretty good. So I'm going to go up to the top and make selection and click OK, 0 pixels, and have anti-alias checked, and click OK. Now I'm going to press G on the keyboard to pull up my gradient tool. If it pulls up one of these two tools, all you have to do is go click and hold and select gradient tool. And the gradient I'm going to have, it's going to be the two colors I have here in my foreground and background. If you don't have these colors here, basically you just want to select your background color and then the other color be the color you chose. So I have those two colors, and I'm just going to click and drag on the selection, make sure the new layer is selected. And actually I want to go the other way, maybe something like that. Maybe go more like, yeah, that's pretty good. And then I'm going to press Command D to deselect, and that's like the gradient shape we create. So you can already see we're off to a pretty good start. I think that looks pretty nice. Now we're going to create a new layer and do a very similar thing, just on the opposite side. So I'm going to click here and then click, probably should go down a little further. And actually, I'm going to delete this and go about it a different way. I'm going to delete that layer, and let's go ahead and actually no, let's create a new layer. Get the rectangle marquee tool, fill your entire canvas here. I'm just going to press Command delete to fill that whole background, and then Command D to deselect, and then I'm going to press Command and select the thumbnail of that first shape, and then I'm going to press delete on this layer, and that just creates a shape here that I can move up like so, and then that's perfectly aligned. Now you could do what I was going to do and just pen tool a new shape, but I want this center bit to be perfect, so I like to do it that way. Now you might have a kind of funky edge here because of how we did that, so I'm just going to create a new layer, press Command, select that, hide it, and then grab the gradient tool, and this time instead of the our color to our dark color, I'm going to go to black and white, and then I'm going to change black, so I'm going to click that bottom color box and then click color. I'm going to select our green and then move it over towards the gray, so somewhere in here, and so it has a little bit of our green color, but it's also mainly gray. Click OK, and then let's draw that gradient out. I think I want to go this way. Actually, no. I want to go this way. I'm going to make this one like extend a little further so there's less white, because the white is really, like, it really stands out. So I think that's pretty good, and I'm going to press Command D and deselect that and then delete that second layer. Now I'm going to rename these. I'm going to call this one green and this one white, or name that whatever color you used. Now we can get into creating the cool looks, and it's pretty simple. All you need to do is, first off, let's create a new layer on the green. Alt click on that layer to make it a clipping mask, and then grab the pen tool, and you just want to create another shape in here. So what I'm going to do is start from this left, click, go here in the middle, and sort of follow this sort of curve, so it's a similar curve but just lower, and then finish off at the top bit here like so. That's pretty nice. I'm gonna finish this off, then I'm gonna Command click this middle point, and still holding Command, I'm just gonna change this so it's like that, and then maybe move this point up a little bit like so, and then I'm going to click off, make sure that's pretty rounded. That looks pretty nice. And again, let's go to selection, okay, grab the gradient, and we want that original green to dark green. And oh, actually I went the wrong way with this selection. Let me back it up here, actually step forward. I'm gonna take the pen tool and Command click and select these points, and Command and click and drag them up like so. Okay, that's what we want. And I'm gonna hit selection, okay, so I have this part selected. Then I'm gonna go to the gradient and do the opposite way, or go the opposite way rather. So let's go maybe just like that. What does that look like? No, I don't like that. I'm gonna start out from further and then come towards the end. I think I like that. That minimizes the darkness over here, and I'm gonna hit Command D, and there you go. You can see we kind of have our first shape. Now I'm gonna go create a new layer again and clipping mask that again, and get the pen tool, and this time I'm gonna go a different way. So I'm gonna click at a similar spot and then go, and we're gonna curve it this way this time, and this one's just gonna take up a little bit, so I'm gonna click down here and then finish that off. You can see this is just gonna be the corner, so let's go ahead and change this one, maybe get a little more of that corner like so. That works. Selection, okay, gradient, and let's go again. Something like that. Click Command D, and yeah, there we go. So we have our two shapes. These shapes could have been better, but I kind of like the look of that. It's looking pretty neat. And now we can go and do the same thing to the white layer. Alright, so go to the white layer, create a new layer, and just repeat that same process. I'm going to go ahead and speed this up for you. Oh, by the way, when you're going to reselect this gradient, you might want to go ahead when you go to the black and select your green, and then you go over to the gray. When you do that, you might want to go ahead and copy that hex code so you have that when you go back to it. And yeah, and then just repeat that. Alright, there we go. We got our main shape set up now. You can see we're starting to get the look. It's looking pretty nice. Now we just have to go through and do one more thing to these layers. So basically we're going to go in, and I'm going to start with the green again. We're going to create a new layer, clipping mask. And I'm going to go to that first clipping mask and command click that thumbnail so it selects it. And then I'm going to go to select, modify, contract, and contract by 50 pixels. Now this will depend on the size of your canvas. So I think mine is 3000 by 1000. If yours is smaller, you should do less pixels. If it's bigger, you should do more. But then click OK. And now we're going to go in, get that gradient again, and then go the opposite way again. Like so. That's actually like that. That was pretty nice. Actually, no, it's too dark over here. Alright, I like that a little more. And now you can see we create this sort of line here. And that just gives us a different look. And actually this one and this one are too similar, so I'd actually go in and keep changing it until it gets like a different look. Maybe go a little further here. Maybe something like that, just to mix it up. And then we're going to go ahead, create another new layer, clipping mask it, select the other one, do the same thing, contract by 50, OK, and then boom. Maybe something like that. That looks okay, and that just kind of gives this whole thing a different look. Kind of gives it a little more depth, like this is like a bezel sort of deal, if you know what I mean. And then you just want to go ahead and repeat that on the white layer. Also, you might run into problems like this that I have here. So what I did was create a mask. Got my brush tool, just a soft brush with black, and then I just cut out that bit so it kind of just fades to nothing there. And then also for this one, I did the same thing because I didn't like how this white bit like stood out so much. So then I just clipped that a little bit to fade out again. So just easy fixes like that to things that look a little strange. Alright, there we go. We set up the background pretty well now. One thing I did do then was select all the stuff we just did, duplicate it, and then, or Command J to duplicate, and then Command E to merge it. Brought it down below everything. Command T, right click, flip horizontal, and then increase the size a little bit, and then just bring down the opacity just to like a single digit number, and that just gives a little bit of texturing sort of to go on in this dark area, just so it's not so plain. It kind of mixes it up a little bit, and then you can either keep that or delete it at the end and add something else if you want, but I just did that as a temporary placement holder. Now we want to go ahead and do the center, so let's create a new layer, and I'm just gonna go to the shape tool, get the ellipse, Command H, and I want to have the dark color we use selected, and then go to the middle and create a circle like so. That's pretty good right there. And then I'm going to duplicate that and bring it inwards a little bit. That works. And then this one, I'm gonna actually rasterize and command click that thumbnail and then get the gradient tool. And we're gonna use the dark green to green. And we're just gonna click and create our gradient. So I actually want the dark sort of on the bottom. That's actually pretty good. And press Command D, and I'm gonna hide that. So now we have this ellipse, which kind of acts like a stroke, and you can adjust that to make it thicker or whatever. And then we have this ellipse, which we can then add a new layer, clipping mask, and add some of the stuff we did before. So I did it with a circle, or use the elliptic, what is it called? The elliptical marquee tool, and like click here and do like maybe cut that point off, get the gradient and like go downwards, then do something like that, and then you can do it again. So let's create a new layer, select it, we'll contract it again, and maybe just change the direction like so, and then you have a circle like that. Pretty easy. Now I also duplicated that ellipse again, the one below, brought it up top and made it smaller in the inside like that. And then I also got a rectangle and put that across the circle, sort of like that. And I rotated it to kind of go along this wave, but I still want it to go the width of the circle. There we go. Maybe a little, slightly more rotation. Maybe bring it down. So yeah, something like that. And then I merged these two, double clicked, drop shadow, and just added a small drop shadow. I want the angle to be more like that though. And yeah, those, I wanted like a pretty big distance, smaller spread, and then a pretty big size. So click OK, and then you just plop a logo in there. I'll do that real fast. So here's my logo. Bring down the size, and let me just make it white. Yes, maybe make it a little smaller. So there we go, there's our logo. And then we want to add just like a space for social media or something. So I'm going to bring up the guide. I'm going to grab the rectangle tool again, and with the dark color just create a box at the bottom here holding Alt, and maybe something like that. I'm going to go to the original rectangle and copy the layer style of that drop shadow and paste it to this one. And then if I hit Command H, you can see it's right there. And then you could add text, social media, sponsors, whatever you'd want there. Or you don't need it at all. Then I'm going to create a new layer, get my brush tool, get my main color, which is this bright green. I'm going to make the brush size 900 and keep it as a soft brush. And then let's go around and click on spots that are also the same color. So this bottom left area and the circle, and maybe just like a tiny piece right there. And set that to screen and bump down the opacity. And that just kind of enhances the color a little bit. And then this next step, which is really cool, you're going to have to download this little plugin / script. But if you create a new layer, go to Edit, Fill, and you install this. If you go to Contents Pattern and then check Script, and you just select this screen pattern script, which I'll have a link to it in the description. I actually covered it in a video, the best Photoshop plugins of 2018, free Photoshop plugins of 2018. Click OK, and then you can create these comic book effects. So like this one is just like a standard kind of like halftone effect, and you could change this to set it up however you want, play with these settings. I use this all the time for different stuff, but if you can just use the standard effect here and click OK, and it will just fill the document with this, like as you can see. And then if you just set that to overlay and then click the mask tool to mask it, get your soft brush, get black, maybe make this a little smaller, and then just kind of erase some areas. So I like to, actually we should make it bigger. I like to get rid of like the dots on the brighter areas and leave it on the darker areas, and then also leave it on the edges a little bit. So there we go. This looks just a little too funky, so I have to get rid of it here. There you go. That's pretty good. Obviously you can do that however you want, but that just adds a little bit of texture, and you can play with those settings to even get a bunch of different looks. I just figured it'd be easier to use the standard one, and obviously you guys can do whatever you want with that. And you can change the angle so it goes from up to down or down up, instead of from the sides. And then finally, the last step, you can just go to the bottom to the adjustments and go to a hue and saturation. Now if you have a color correction, you'd want to put this below the hue and saturation. I'm not using a color correction because it's a fairly simple look. And then you can bump the saturation up if you want it a little brighter, or down if you want it a little duller. I'm just going to leave that alone for now and actually change the hue and see if there's anything that looks better than the colors I used. So the yellow looks disgusting, the orange looks okay, blue, purple looks alright. Red looks alright, but yeah, so I'm gonna go with this green. But then also I don't like what this white, I don't like how this white looks with the green now, with the little bits of green. So if I go to the white and command select that, and then switch my background color to black, command delete, that'll get rid of the hue and saturation on that portion. But then it also gets rid of it on this circle, so I'm going to press Command D, and then Command select the background circle, flip these colors, and then Command delete to fill that in with white. So now this is only affecting this area here and not any of the white section. But something I also did play with, I duplicated this, reversed or inversed the mask, just Command I on the mask, and then I selected the hue and saturation and just brought the saturation down to more of a gray, and I thought that looked better with this particular green. So that's something else you can play around with. But that is the tutorial, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like. Let's see if we can hit 100 likes on this tutorial. I haven't hit 100 likes in a while, I haven't been asking for it, but let's see if we can do it here. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon page. You can download this file there with a bunch of other stuff, with everything from my store, if you just pledge $5. Be sure to check out my Twitter at Qehzy, check out my Instagram at That's Qehzy, and yeah, subscribe for more tutorials, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.